Hello, Anime VISOR here, with a review for Lupin the Third, Goodbye Partner.
どうしたんだよ、次元。金で仲間を裏切るなんて、お前のやり方じゃないだろ。
そいつは買いかぶりだな。たまには俺だって稼ぎを独り占めしたい。
Honestly, it's something I'd like to know as well, but more on that later. Go ahead and let us know your thoughts on Goodbye Partner, while SiGNUM and I go ahead and start the review. Lupin the Third, Goodbye Partner is a 90-minute TV special that is advertised with two big selling points. One is the synopsis, where Lupin the Third is forced to fight against his strongest enemy to date when his right-hand man, Daisuke Jigen, turns his gun towards him. And the other, Lupin trades in his iconic red jacket for a black one. Yeah, the aesthetics of a character can be a big deal, especially for a well-known character like Lupin, but it is fairly well established that his jacket color does change from time to time, from the green jacket he wore in part 1 to his red jacket that he wore in part 2, most of the movies, TV specials, and even the original manga. There's his pink jacket he wore in part 3, and now his blue jacket in parts 4 and 5. And actually in the first live-action movie back in 1974, Lupin wore a white jacket of all things, so Lupin changing jackets isn't something new. As for why they changed Lupin's jacket color, I chalk it up to artistic license. That may or may not reflect the time period of when it was made. That would at least explain the pink jacket worn in the 80s and the blue jacket he wore in the 2010s. While I'd like to think there is some type of meaning behind Lupin donning a black jacket and tossing away his red one after he's betrayed by his best friend, the anime doesn't really play out that way. Lupin, while surprised, is never shown to be all that upset with Jigen's betrayal, as he most likely knows there is something bigger going on to make Jigen act that way. And really the only reason the anime gives to why Lupin is wearing a black jacket is that it just so happened to be the colored jacket Goemon gave Lupin after he broke him out of jail. So yeah, I'm going to chalk up Lupin wearing a black jacket to artistic license by the staff and crew. And you know what? Lupin doesn't look too bad in black. But enough about jackets and what color they are. How was Goodbye Partner? If I'm honest, the formula for this anime isn't all that different from a lot of other Lupin movies or TV specials. Lupin needs to steal a certain item, in this case a time crystal, so that the super rich antagonist, who Fujiko has already cozied up to, can complete his current goal and proceed to take over the world. Those tropes are sort of baked into the Lupin story. And how's the old saying go? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. No matter how original a story or plot is, how you execute it is what's important. And Lupin the Third, Goodbye Partner, does a mostly okay job at that. Alright, so I mostly enjoyed this anime, but I have to admit, the middle part is a bit muddled. Specifically the stuff regarding Jigen. It doesn't do a great job on why Jigen decides to betray Lupin. So a bit spoilery here, we see Jigen betray Lupin, then only after that do we meet Alisa, who Jigen has a soft spot for, and there are two problems with how the anime handles that. The first is it never established the reason why Jigen was working for Roy Forrest, the super rich antagonist here in Goodbye Partner. It never conveys that Jigen did it for the money or even knew Roy Forrest had a captive, let alone that captive being Alisa. And the second problem it has is it doesn't clearly define Jigen's relationship to Alisa. To start, when Jigen sees Alisa, we get a flashback of her mother, that both her parents are dead, but at one point Jigen was close to her mother. I mentioned tropes being baked into the Lupin series earlier, and this is another one as well. There's been a couple of times where the series has shown Jigen to have had a woman he's cared about in his past, for things not to work out for one reason or another, and that woman went on to have a kid with someone else. And thus Jigen is reminded of his past when he sees said kid, and gives him something to protect and fight for in that given entry in the series. And I would have been fine with that had the movie not made me question it at the end. At the end, when everything gets resolved, Fujiko is talking to Alisa. She then sort of stares blankly at her for a couple of seconds, and is about to ask her about Jigen, then decides not to.
ねえ、あなたと次元の関係って、はい？いや、やっぱり聞かないどくわ。
Any other character, maybe outside Lupin, I wouldn't have thought much of it. But Fujiko is a pretty perceptive person, and makes it seem to imply that Alyssa may be Jigen's daughter, when it really didn't imply that before. Watching the scene with Jigen and Alyssa's mother again with that context, however, you could kind of maybe see that as a possibility, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it sort of convolutes an already messy middle section of the anime, because as I said earlier, it doesn't explain why Jigen decided to work for Roy Forrest in the first place. Once he saw Alyssa, it would make sense, but as the anime clearly shows, he doesn't seem to know there is a captive, let alone Alyssa, until after he betrays Lupin. It's a bit annoying because it actually sets up some other stuff really well. Not to go into too much detail to avoid spoilers, but there's a scene where Alyssa has to play a certain note on the piano for a computer, and the room they're in is based off of Chopin's room. When they can't get the computer to respond to the note Alyssa was playing, she remembers that Chopin would often play with the soundboard down to get a slightly different sound, something it establishes in the first 5 minutes of the anime in a flashback. So the anime shows it can do a good job setting up and executing plot points. Though keeping with the piano talk, boy do I wish they didn't use CG for the hands playing the piano. It looks okay when they are playing at speed, but if they are ever playing slowly, it doesn't look good and is a bit uncanny valley. Thankfully, the CG for the Lupin the Third, the first movie, looks, well, amazing. Anyway, I will add that I really like Fujiko here in Goodbye Partner. She's obviously got her own motives, but it was really nice to see a Fujiko that didn't need to shoot, fly, or drive herself out of trouble, but helping and encouraging Alyssa by playing piano herself. Though I'm drawing a blank if the Lupin series ever depicted Fujiko playing piano before. However, she's been shown throughout the series to be able to do a little bit of everything, so it's not that big of a leap to assume that she can tickle the ivories. You and me both. Anyway, Lupin the Third, Goodbye Partner, has a problem establishing why Jigen betrays Lupin initially. Had this entry been called something like Lupin the Third Piano Duet, I wouldn't have had as much of a problem with it, but when you advertise this anime as Jigen betraying Lupin and calling the anime Goodbye Partner, I think you need to execute that part of the story well, and as I mentioned, it unfortunately muddled a lot of that up. Outside that, Lupin was Lupin, Goemon was Goemon, Zenigata was Zenigata, Fujiko was Fujiko, and maybe a little better than she normally is, given her role in this anime. And despite her relationship with Jigen being a bit hard to pin down exactly, I did really like Alyssa as a character. Only because I know it'll annoy a few people in the comment section, yes, Alyssa is better than Rebecca, in every single way except making pizza. Even I have to admit, Rebecca probably makes good pizza. At any rate, Goodbye Partner is a solid entry into the Lupin series for the most part, and if you're a fan of Lupin the Third, it's definitely worth watching, and if for nothing else, watch it to at least see how good Lupin looks in black for yourself. With all that said, that'll wrap up my thoughts on Lupin the Third, Goodbye Partner. What are your thoughts on Lupin the Third, Goodbye Partner? Let us know in the comments below. As always, I've been Anime VISOR. Thanks for watching. I just went through this entire review without revealing to SiGNUM that this anime features a super AI named Amelka. Well, you tend to get a bit jealous of other AI SiGNUM. Thank you for proving my point. At any rate, goodbye everybody. Or should I say, goodbye partner.